A messy house, a racing mind, a makeshift routine, all of that quietly steals your energy, your productivity, even your self-confidence. The more you try to do it all, the more your life feels out of control. It's not a lack of ability, it's too much chaos. Without discipline, organization, and mental clarity, any attempt at a life change dies halfway through. Here's a flip almost nobody teaches. Instead of waiting for the perfect spark of motivation, you've got to force yourself to create order, inside and out. When you push to put things where they belong, plan your routine, and take control of your time, what looked like bad luck shows up as a lack of system. The jolt of responsibility opens the door to new habits, more focus, higher productivity, and consistent results across every part of life. At first, admitting that disorganization is costing you is painful. Missed deadlines, blown opportunities, the feeling of being stuck in a future that's always later. Exactly for that reason, organizing your life stops being an option and becomes a necessity, almost emotional survival. When someone faces that discomfort and truly decides to build an organized life, they discover personal development starts with simple but steady steps, way beyond a pretty planner. And that's exactly what you'll notice, topic by topic, from here on out. Some people look at their life and blame bad luck, jealousy, or the stars, when the real thing missing is basic day-to-day organization. Without at least a minimally structured routine, even the best entrepreneurship content and the strongest motivational quotes lose their power. Nothing holds up in the middle of chaos. Once someone starts building discipline, organization, and a bit more self-control, the results change. Not magically, but because of consistency applied to the small stuff. That's where personal development stops being a nice theory and becomes real action. Tidying the room, keeping appointments, respecting your own calendar. And funny enough, the more order they bring into their life, the more they see it was never about talent. It was about lacking the structure to turn purpose into real-life change. When your mind's a mess, every problem feels catastrophic. But with mental clarity, everything is more manageable. External organization helps settle emotions, strengthening emotional control and self-confidence to make better choices. From there, productivity and focus stop being dreams and become the natural consequence of a routine built with intention and discipline. It's like finally getting a map to success instead of stumbling around in the dark, tripping over the same bad habits. That simple adjustment makes room for genuine personal transformation, because an organized life proves, in practice, that results aren't about luck, they're about a daily strategy. People who protect their lives from excesses, clutter, and unnecessary impulses create fertile ground for productivity and success in any field. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's waking up and doing the basics well, day after day, until discipline becomes part of who you are. Over time, you get more self-control, healthier habits, and a routine that works for you rather than against you. That organized life is what lets entrepreneurship, focus, and personal development stop being talk and actually become your lifestyle. And when that clicks, you see clearly how tiny distractions and a disordered mind quietly sabotage the future you want to build. While someone tells themselves they're just tired or just busy, the clutter takes over the space in the mind, draining focus and productivity without a sound. A desk piled with stuff, a phone buzzing nonstop, and a routine with no planning may seem like small things, but they wreck personal development and any attempt at entrepreneurship. When your brain is surrounded by stimuli all day, it loses mental clarity and goes into reactive mode, constantly putting out fires. In that silent mess, consistency becomes impossible, because there's no minimal organization to keep healthy habits in place. So you stack days without discipline, without self-control, without results, until you start to think organized life is something from another world. Constant distraction gives a false sense of productivity. Tons of tabs, endless notifications, endless ideas, but barely anything finished. That eats away at self-confidence because you promise yourself you'll change your life but can't keep a simple routine past 3 days. Without emotional control, any frustration becomes an excuse to drop the plan and go back to old patterns. The truth is, when there's no structure, even the best motivational quotes feel hollow. There's no discipline to turn inspiration into action. That's the hard cut. Either you learn to protect organization, focus, and purpose, or you'll stay busy forever with little to show for it. Over time, the cocktail of distraction, no routine, and a messy mind hits your mental health, your energy, and the way you see your own future. You start to believe you weren't born for success, when really you just haven't built a daily system of productivity and self-control. Start adjusting your environment, simplifying choices, and cutting down the noise, and your habits shift while the overload eases. That opens space for more organization, discipline, and mental clarity, like someone finally turning down the volume on the internal mess. And when that productive silence shows up, you notice real change doesn't start with a big dream. It starts with how you handle every single minute. Lots of folks want life change, fast entrepreneurship wins, and quick results, but they skip the obvious. It all begins with the basics, at home. A chaotic space saps energy, kills productivity, and weakens self-control because every visual mess becomes another mental distraction. Choosing an organized life isn't just folding your clothes. It's daily training of discipline and consistency. That simple care for your physical space creates mental clarity and paves the way for new habits, more focus, and better emotional control. Little by little, you realize organization isn't frilly. It's a strategic tool for personal development and meaningful transformation. After the house, the routine follows. Without planning, any day becomes one long improvisation where nothing important gets done. When you learn to plan, set priorities, and protect time blocks for what matters, productivity grows naturally. The discipline of checking the calendar, choosing what stays and what goes, strengthens self-control and keeps you from living on the back foot. That helps align daily habits with purpose, instead of always putting out fires and wondering why success never shows up. Over time, a more organized routine generates more consistent results, and self-confidence grows because you see you actually do what you plan. Finally, organizing your thoughts is what stitches it all together. A tidy house and a pretty agenda mean nothing with a confused mind. Writing things down, making lists, reviewing goals, and practicing mental clarity filters worries and sharpens focus on what really matters. That process gives a feeling of emotional control and an organized life that goes way beyond a daily checklist. Then, motivational quotes stop being momentary sparks and become reminders of a path you're already building with discipline and consistency. And when that foundation's solid, you start to understand why success and life change aren't luck. They're the consequence of a well-structured daily system that only gets stronger from there. Most people grow up hearing success is for the talented, but in real life, those who make it have daily systems, clear routines, and discipline applied to the small things. Planning isn't a cute, colorful planner. It's a personal development tool that decides where your focus goes and where your energy stops. When you learn to organize your day around purpose, results stop being random and become inevitable. That strengthens self-control because you stop living in improvisation and build an organized life around what actually matters. In that setting, entrepreneurship, productivity, and mental clarity stop being pretty ideas and start appearing in everyday tasks, one by one. Clear priorities separate the person who's always extinguishing fires from the one who builds life. Change with consistency. Instead of trying to do everything at once, you pick a few essential things and commit to executing them with discipline until they're done. That kind of organization boosts self-confidence. Every completed goal proves you can keep promises to yourself. Emotional control improves too because your mind isn't overloaded with 1,000 open tasks. Step by step, this way of living builds smarter habits, a lighter routine, and more solid results without depending on today's inspiration. People who get that talent without a system dries up, choose daily rituals, review goals, plan tomorrow, protect focus blocks, and say no to what steals time. That structure repeats day after day the same actions that build long-term success, personal development, and sustained productivity. You start seeing planning as freedom, not prison, because an organized life frees up space for rest, family, and projects. Motivational quotes then become fuel for the system, not a crutch that makes you start and stop. And when that base is built, it's easier to see how your daily structure can beat even the laziest excuses that pop up down the line. When you realize laziness isn't negotiated with, it's met with structure, everything changes. Instead of relying on willpower or the latest motivational quotes, you set up a simple, organized routine that pushes you into action even on couch days. Every drawer you tidy, every checklist you tick, every time block you protect is silent training in discipline and self-control. That builds self-confidence, because you prove you can move even when you don't feel like it. It's in that repeated motion that consistency starts to stack, brick by brick, into a more productive life aligned with your purpose. Structure is like train tracks. If they're set right, the train moves. Even slowly, it moves. When you fix schedules, build clear habits, and divide your day into focus blocks, productivity rises with less drama. You're less likely to get lost in distractions, and you shield your focus from empty chats, doom scrolling, and useless tasks. That daily organization gives mental clarity, because your mind knows what needs to be done and when. Slowly, entrepreneurship, personal development, and life change stop feeling far off and begin to show up in the small deliveries of each day. What's wild is that over time the structure starts to take care of you, not the other way around. Instead of waking up asking, Riwa, what do I do today? You follow the system you built, saving emotional energy and cutting decision fatigue. That deepens discipline, self-control, and the sense of an organized life, because every act of organization reinforces the identity of someone focused, productive, and transforming. And when mental clarity gets stronger, a blunt truth becomes visible. If you don't take control of your time, time will take control of you. If you live in let life take me mode, urgency, not purpose, runs the day. With no organized life, every message or request becomes automatic priority, and your dreams get relegated to when I have time. Slowly, the hours slip into things that don't produce results, while what matters gets postponed. That's how tons of people with huge entrepreneurship potential get trapped in empty routines. Worse, without consistency, the feeling of being late for your own life only grows, messing with emotional control and self-confidence. Controlling time isn't filling your calendar. It's choosing consciously where each hour gets invested. Learn to say no, block time for focus, and cut distractions, and you'll reclaim your routine. That organization creates mental clarity, because the day stops being unpredictable chaos and starts to align with your purpose. The discipline of reviewing commitments, tweaking schedules, and protecting key moments is daily practice in self-control. Over time, an organized life becomes a natural outcome of small, firm decisions made every day. If you don't choose how you spend time, you live in other people's clocks, messages, demands, their urgencies. That robs productivity, focus, and room for personal development because your mind is tired and always playing catch-up. But those who own their time slot in strategic habits, studying, training, silence, reflection, planning, reprogram their whole routine and boost results across the board. This is where you see why winners fiercely guard their calendar and don't waste focus. You'll see it even clearer in the next step. People who take personal development seriously know a calendar isn't just hours. It's protection of energy, focus, and purpose. Winners say no to a lot of good things, so they can say yes to what's essential. They treat time as a valuable asset because without consistency, there's no success or life change. So they build their day with discipline, pick carefully what enters the routine, and avoid commitments that only take space without delivering results. An organized life isn't coldness, it's self-control, knowing that whoever tries to hug everything ends up dropping their purpose. Protecting your calendar also means shielding your focus from the stream of distractions that eats mental clarity without you noticing. Every random chat, every endless scroll, every quick thing stacks minutes that could build new habits, entrepreneurship projects, or personal goals. Winners make concentration blocks, cut interruptions, and use tools that help productivity instead of hijacking attention. That discipline brings more consistent results, boosts self-confidence, and cuts the constant feeling of running late. Deep down, it's a daily choice. React to whatever pops up or take emotional and strategic control of your routine. Over time, protecting the calendar is really protecting your identity. You start seeing yourself as focused, organized, and productive, which influences habits, self-control, and how you approach success. Motivational quotes stop being illusions and become reminders to keep discipline and purpose first, even when tempting distractions pop up. This stance may bug people who don't get boundaries, but it's exactly what makes real personal transformation possible. And when guarding your calendar becomes natural, you discover the power of doing what needs to be done, even when you'd rather do something else. Most think freedom is doing only what you feel like, but in reality that usually leads to a messy routine, no results, and lots of regret. Discipline is the opposite, choosing to do what needs doing, even when your body wants the couch and your mind makes excuses. Every time you finish an important task without being in the mood, you strengthen self-control and self-confidence. That directly impacts productivity, entrepreneurship, and personal development because action stops depending on mood or motivation. That's where consistency starts turning loose habits into an organized life aligned with a clear purpose. Discipline creates freedom because it frees you from the invisible chains of procrastination, guilt, and "I'll do it later." When you commit to a clear routine with times, priorities, and organization, you get more time for what you love because you did what needed to be done first. This applies to money, health, relationships, projects, everything. The person who practices daily discipline reaps steadier results and learns success is a set of small, well-aimed sacrifices. This lifestyle strengthens emotional control because you trust your actions, not just your intentions. Eventually, discipline stops being an inner battle and becomes almost automatic. Your brain gets the message, "This is who I am," not "this is what I'm trying to do." You see yourself as disciplined, productive, and focused, and that new identity carries new habits, results, and true personal transformation. Motivational quotes are still welcome, but they become seasoning, not the main dish, because what drives you is the daily decision to do what must be done. As that inner order settles, emotions matter less and you gain control and clarity that only grows when you also organize your inner world. When life's chaotic, every emotion balloons. One criticism ruins your whole day. One mistake feels cataclysmic, and your mind is at war. By creating order and routine habits and even your environment, you shrink the space for drama and expand space for reason. Organization isn't just aesthetics. It's a tool for self-control and personal development. It tells your mind where to start, what's priority, and what doesn't deserve so much energy. In that clearer structure, motivational quotes stop being emotional rescue and become reinforcement for a steadier, more productive life. Taking emotional control doesn't mean feeling less. It means learning not to act in the heat of the moment. You start spotting triggers, taking pauses, and noticing patterns. When you're tired, you decide worse. When you're irritated, you talk too much. With more mental clarity, you begin to respond instead of react. That changes relationships, money decisions, entrepreneurship projects, and how you see yourself. Over time, habits of reflection, journaling, silence, and planning become a shield against emotional explosions that used to derail your whole day. This combo of external and internal order strengthens the identity of someone with discipline, focus, and an organized life. You stop being a hostage to the day's mood and rely on consistency, purpose, and conscious choices. That increases results because you won't throw away a whole week over one bad moment. Personal transformation then stops being a distant idea and becomes visible. Less impulsivity, more productivity, more balance. And when this new stance sticks, it's easier to see how daily discipline turns into identity. So the right action becomes almost automatic. There comes a point where discipline ceases being pure effort and starts to become a way of being. Instead of fighting every day for motivation, you just do it because the action is part of who you are. You don't try to be organized. You see yourself as someone with an organized life, solid habits, and a focus on personal development. That inner shift makes consistency feel natural, almost automatic. That's why, over time, results in productivity, success, and life change look easy from the outside. They're the product of many days doing the basics right. When discipline becomes identity, the brain saves decision energy. Instead of bargaining, should I or shouldn't I, it already knows what comes first. The routine flows easier because the right habits are the person's default mode. That increases mental clarity, self-control, and sense of purpose, because each daily choice lines up with the life they want to build. Motivational quotes still help, but they're just a nudge on a path that's already moving. At this stage, entrepreneurship, organization, and productivity stop being projects and become lifestyle. What's most powerful is that this disciplined identity starts with tiny things: making your bed, keeping a time, honoring your calendar. Over time, those micro wins build a different kind of self-confidence, the kind that knows you can rely on your own actions. You learn that personal transformation doesn't come from one perfect day, but from many ordinary days done well. Habits, routine, focus, and organization line up until your whole life works for your purpose. And it's exactly when that machine runs smoother that it makes sense to consciously force yourself to organize every area of life to accelerate the next level of results. At the end of the day, it comes down to one honest question: Do you want to keep living on autopilot, stuck in the mess? Or are you ready to take the wheel and build a truly organized life? This whole journey you just read isn't pretty theory. It's a practical map for personal development, self-control, and discipline to build a routine that works for you, not against you. Every tweak in organization, every habit, every bit of focus and productivity is another brick in the life change you say you want. So here's the challenge. What exactly are you going to fix today, in your home, your calendar, or your mind, to prove to yourself you won't live on improvisation anymore? Which habit will you drop, and which new habit of discipline, consistency, or emotional control will you start in the next 24 hours? How much longer are you going to call it bad luck when deep down it's lack of structure, mental clarity, and aligned action toward your purpose? If this hit you, don't let it die when the video ends. Subscribe and hit notifications to keep learning about organization, productivity, entrepreneurship, and personal development, step by step, until you build the life you actually want to live.